Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany Janae, and in today's video, we're going to talk about another celebrity lawsuit that involves essay and all of those things. But it's pretty shocking because of the person who it is. It's involving Smokey Robinson. So I'm pretty sure you guys have all heard about this and seen it in the vlogs. So I want to talk about this lawsuit in today's video, and just a warning. I don't have my hands on the petition, but there are other YouTubers who have the petition and are actually reading from it. So I'm just going off of news articles and videos I've seen of people going through the petition itself. So let's get into it, you guys. So this is a $50 million lawsuit that has been filed by 4 women who used to work as housekeepers in Smokey's home. And so the allegations include sexual assault, rape, labor law violations such as wage theft that's been spanning for nearly 2 decades. So let's break all this down and what's in this lawsuit and what the women are claiming and who else is being named and what this might mean moving forward. So I'm like, at this point, are there any other type of lawsuits that are going on besides essay lawsuits? Because I feel like that is just a trend and a culture in Hollywood. Because at this point, it's just like with the Diddy trial going on, with the Game. I don't know if y'all heard about the Game and his situation from a year or so ago where he didn't go to court and now he owed this woman all this money because of sexual abuse and a default judgment she got a child. It's just it's a lot. It's a lot. But in this particular case, this is a $50 million civil lawsuit that's been filed by 4 Hispanic women who used to work as housekeepers in Smokey's home. And so they're accusing him of repeated sexual assault, rape, emotional abuse, and labor exploitation, more specifically wage theft, right? And so this is the kind of lawsuit or story that kind of stops you in your tracks, because this is an old man that's in his 80s. You would not expect for him to be able to even do anything like this, but you never truly know people. And also at the end of the day, these are allegations. So I kind of just want to break all of this down because his wife is also named in this lawsuit as a defendant or a respondent, Miss Frances Robinson. And so let's just kind of start with the facts as far as what we know. So girl, on May 6, 2025, 4 women filed a lawsuit in LA Superior Court. And so right now they're listed as anonymous: Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe 2, Jane Doe 3, Jane Doe 4. And all of them worked as housekeepers in Smokey's home for years in California and in Las Vegas. And so these women are basically claiming they were sexually assaulted multiple times between 2007 and 2024. And so they're not talking about just 1 or 2 incidents. They're talking about at least one plaintiff has made the claims that she was assaulted over more than 20 times in what they called the Blue Room. And so the lawsuit itself is 48 pages long, and it is extremely intense, you guys. And so I'm going to name some of the allegations. So sexual assault and rape, like I said, is an allegation that's being made. Gender-based violence is also an allegation listed in the lawsuit. False imprisonment, which is a very serious I was going to say crime, yes, but in this instance, it's in a civil lawsuit. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, unpaid wages, overtime violations, because they're also alleging that they worked overtime, never got paid, they worked holidays, days off. All of these slew of allegations that is just intense. And so according to several news articles, one of the plaintiffs alleged that Smokey sexually assaulted her several times in his mansion beginning in 2016. According to news articles in the court documents of the petition, he would summon her to either the laundry room or a garage where there were no cameras, the lawsuit claims. And so the accuser said that Smokey would rape her without a condom at least 23 times. And so she gave very graphic details, including claims that Smokey would enjoy ejaculating all over her face. And he would also threaten her by saying that his wife would be mean to her if she didn't comply to his sexual demands, according to this lawsuit. So in that same lawsuit, it alleges that Smokey's wife, Frances Robinson, perpetuated a hostile work environment by regularly screaming at her in a hostile manner and using ethnically pejorative words and language. And so another former housekeeper also alleged that she was sexually assaulted by Smokey at least 7 times between January 2023 and February 2024, and she was forced to resign due to repeated sexual assault. He would allegedly summon this lady into his blue room, escort the dog Shiloh out of the room before locking the door and attacking her on his bed, causing her great pain. And so the housekeeper said she would try to resist Smokey's sexual assault, but she could not. Sometimes I know a lot of people are like, well, you know, he's an old man. Like, how come like these women can't take an older man, or, you know? But sometimes not sometimes, a good bit of the time, these men have old men strength. They still are very strong and can physically overpower a woman for the most part. So, according to this housekeeper, in a desperate attempt, she did try to shake him off, and she shouted, "You're married!" to the singer. Why did I say it like that? But she did shout to him that you're married. And so he would just casually ignore this because his wife knew, apparently his wife knew what was going on, so he didn't care. And so she's claiming that this lasted for at least 7 times, forcing her to stop working for Smokey last year in February. And she also claimed that Smokey and his wife failed to pay minimum wage or overtime wages to her while she was an employee in their home. Third accuser says she was also working as a housekeeper when Smokey attacked her, and alleged a similar pattern of abuse where the singer would lower her into his bedroom. So she's saying that Smokey raped her at least 20 times between 2012 and 2024, and on one occasion he offered her $500 to allow him to orally copulate her per the lawsuit. And so the housekeeper also accuses Francis of failing to take appropriate corrective actions to prevent Smokey's deviant misconduct. She said that this came despite his wife having full knowledge of his prior acts of sexual misconduct, having settled cases without other women that suffered and experienced similar sexual assaults perpetuated by him. And so the fourth and final accuser in this lawsuit is alleging that she was attacked by Smokey while working as a housekeeper between 2007 and 2024, alleging that he never used a condom while assaulting her in his home. And so the complainants allege that several offenses, including negligence, sexual battery, assault, false imprisonment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, gender violence, created a hostile environment, and also they failed to pay them their minimum wage. And so one of the major themes in this lawsuit is vulnerability, right? So these were not just women who had power. These were low-income Hispanic workers, some who may have had an unclear or undocumented immigration status. So, and from my understanding is that that's why they took so long to report, because they were afraid of what would happen. They didn't want to lose their jobs. They didn't want to face retaliation, because this is a legend, you know? And in some cases, they feared legal consequences if their immigration status came into question, right? So they kept working, they kept showing up, even as, according to this lawsuit, they were enduring this horrific abuse. And so the attorneys that are representing the women are arguing that this was a deliberate power imbalance. Smokey Robinson used his wealth, fame, and economic dependence to take advantage of their clients. And so we talked about early on in the video the role of Francis Robinson, right? And that kind of complicate this or make this more sick and twisted, because the wife knew what was going on, and she didn't care. You know, she was very nasty, negative towards the women, instead of like leaving her husband, trying to help these women out. But no, you know, according to them, she fostered a hostile and toxic work environment, and she played a very active role in all of this. And being that she used racially and ethically charged language towards them, and she humiliated them, and she turned basically a blind eye to the abuse, even though she was very aware of all of this, right? Which makes it so utterly disgusting, like, if this is true, because we don't know if this is true. And so the women are also claiming that at some points that Francis would instruct them to keep quiet, or she would just dismiss their concerns entirely, right? And so this just enabled the environment, even though she wasn't physically present during some of the assault. So these are just allegations, like I said, you know, and these could be made up, right? And so the thing is, a lot of people are like, I believe a lot of people, from what I'm hearing, a lot of people's like, well, if y'all worked there for like 20 years, or y'all was there for all this time and kept going back. But you have to think, in their situation, they might be undocumented immigrants, and they need this money, they need this paycheck, and they just don't know what to do. And so coming from a person who has so much power and control, you know, they were just trying to do what they felt like what was in their best interest, not only for themselves and probably for their family at the time. And so this lawsuit isn't just a personal case. It's a part of a much broader pattern that we have seen over the years, y'all, with these powerful men taking advantage of these vulnerable women, and just decades of silence. And so not even just vulnerable women, but vulnerable men as well. And so a lot of these high profile cases that we've seen, Harvey Weinstein, R. Kelly, Diddy has his own thing going on. His trial, his criminal trial has started. And so a lot of times it's easier, and I will say this, right? It's easier to win in the civil lawsuit versus the criminal lawsuit. And then the benefit in the civil lawsuit is that you can get a payday, and oftentimes it ends up in a settlement, right? And so that's why a lot of these people do it. And also the other thing with the criminals is that the statute of limitations might be over for some. Not for, I don't think, because like some of this was just a year ago when it happened. It was just a year ago. So, you know, I don't think statute of limitations probably ran out for the ones where the assault happened a year ago, criminally wise. But in this case with Smokey Robinson, the plaintiffs are not just going after him for what they say he did. They're also suing under the California Gender Violence Act, and they're also citing labor code violations like forcing employees to work unpaid overtime, not giving them rest breaks, and even threatening immigration exposure. So it's just a full-scale case that blends sexual violence, workplace abuse, and systematic exploitation. So, legally speaking, Smokey may have a long road ahead of him. And let me just say, this is civil court, so he's not facing any jail time from this lawsuit. But if criminal charges do follow, and that's still a possibility, then this could escalate even further. So I think I'm gonna end the video here, you guys, because it just seems like a lot of these lawsuits that we've been talking about, as salacious as they sound, there's a lot of sexual assault. Doesn't mean it's true, doesn't mean it's not true. We don't know. Will he settle? I don't know. It's, like I said, it's always too early on to kind of tell, because I don't know any insiders or whatever the case may be who may know the real deal, like what's going on behind the scenes. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think Smokey is capable of doing something like this? Have y'all heard anything about this before? Why do you think this is such a big deal in Hollywood, as far as like sexual assault? Like, why is it in the culture? Do you think it's because of the power that these men have, the money, the ego? Is it narcissism? Like, what is it? And it's just like, Smokey is old. He's in his mid to late 80s, and he's doing allegedly things like this according to these women. And it's just like, girl, I don't know. We'll just have to see how this all plays out. Because this is wild. So, all right, you guys, I'm gonna stop rambling at this point, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.